Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. It's so great to see all of you. Some familiar faces, faces we haven't seen for a long time, faces I saw last week, new faces. It's really awesome to have you all here. I'm really grateful for people who show up on Sundays and trust their day of the week to us to be here. So thank you. When I first gave a Lessons Learned on the Path message, I didn't expect it to turn into a series, but it has. So we're continuing in this vein of thought of what we've learned in the past 8 years of pastoring and on this path of life and faith. And it's not just a message from Pastor Mike and myself and our experience, but I think that it's a message that many of you can relate to it, as we are all on the path towards God and the path of faith. So the lesson that I wanted to talk about today is on humility. And before I get anywhere with this, I want to clarify what type of humility I'm talking about. Because many times when I think people hear the word humble or humility, I don't know, what is it, what do you think of?
It's very powerful.
It's powerful. That's one way to look at humility. Coming down, okay.
Surrender.
What's that?
Surrender.
Surrender.
Being vulnerable.
Being vulnerable.
Being kind.
Being kind. I love these definitions that are coming. Very happy to hear these, because I think for a lot of people, or at least my understanding earlier in my life of being humble or humility was a little bit different. Actually, the Oxford Languages Dictionary defines humility as a modest or low view of one's own importance. And I think that sometimes people take it that way. That, oh no, I'm nothing, or perhaps we think of being humble as the way that you dress or the way that you live. They lived in a humble home, it was very small, or it was old, or they didn't wear expensive clothes, and that was a humble way of living. And I'm surprised to see that is actually one of these definitions. But the one that I resonate with more, and what I want to emphasize today, and I think the one that actually you are all telling me, is from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. And the Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines humility as freedom from pride or arrogance. That is a powerful definition. Freedom. There's a freedom when we can let go of pride or arrogance. So, I almost feel like that could just be my message today. There we go. But I'll go a little further. For me, I was thinking about it in my journey with humility, and I think that early in my life, it was a transition for me. It took me a while to transition from being humble in terms of thinking low of myself, or trying, just feeling like I'm not a lot, or I'm not really worthy, to then developing, actually, I'm a pretty awesome person. I have skills, I have value, and then I kind of developed some pride and arrogance, and then realized, well, that's not it either, and having to let go of the pride and arrogance while still knowing my value. Have you guys ever played the game Othello? It's a board game. I love this game as a teenager. It's a simple game. It's just a board of squares, and you have these little pieces, these little circles. They're black on one side and white on the other side. And you fill in this grid, and there's two people who play. One person picks white, one person picks black. And the goal is that you each start off with 2 pieces of your own color, and then you place pieces one at a time, and if you can place your color, you can flip over any of the pieces that are not your color between 2 pieces that are your color. Anyway, this game's tagline is a minute to learn and a lifetime to master. A minute to learn and a lifetime to master. And I feel like that is exactly what humility is. At least in my experience. Maybe for some people it takes more than a minute to learn. But I did learn quickly when I was on my missions program, when I first was put into a leadership position, that humility is very important. I was on our missions program, and I went through a captain's training, and in my first team, I was the first time I was responsible to drive and to educate and to care for these other young high school graduates. And in some ways, I felt like, wow, I went through all this time and all this training, all this work. I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot, I have lots to offer. And everything that I wanted to do with this team didn't happen. I had the most struggling team that ever showed up into this program. I was ready for them to meet God and to go. We were fundraising at the time. I was like, we're going to break records. We're going to do awesome. And all we did was struggle. We would be reading our God's words in the morning. And I can't tell you the number of times. By the end of it, there were just tears dripping down. Me too. and I learned very quickly. It took me a minute to learn. I can't go in with any expectations as a leader that I'm just going to be a good leader. Just because I'm in this role doesn't mean that that's what I have to offer. That's the respect that I can expect from people. And I learned that, and I really stuck with that. When I finished my missions program, and then I went on to college, I volunteered to be the CART president for the Chabot campus in California. And I knew that even though I had this experience, 4 years on a missions program, I knew a lot of these young people that I was going to be the CART president of. But there are also people that I didn't know. I knew that I couldn't go in saying, well, look, I have all this experience of leadership and education, and I know what to do. No, I knew that I had to get to know each person. I knew that I had to serve them. I knew I had to love them first. And I took that directly into pastoring as well. When Mike and I arrived here, we both really felt we don't have experience as pastors. We're stepping into this position. We might have this role, but we have to start from servant leadership. We have to first love. We have to first serve. So that was a lesson I learned quickly. That was my minute to learn part. But I also learned there are much deeper and deeper levels of humility to explore. Where I find humility more difficult on a regular basis is in admitting my mistakes or acknowledging that somebody else was right and apologizing when I'm wrong. Anybody else feel that sometimes that's a lesson that's a little harder to learn? Okay. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I have always had a very hard time to admit my mistakes. I think that I was often told that I was a good kid, or maybe I was just really loved by my parents, but which is wonderful. But I really, I couldn't bear the thought that I had done something wrong or made a mistake. I remember one of the first times where this really hit me. I think I was 7 or 8. We were visiting my great aunt in Cleveland, Ohio. We were on a road trip, and we were staying there for a couple of days. And I love older people. You know, they always have candy in little glass jars in my house. I was very good at sneaking those things. Actually, just down the road from where we lived, there was an older couple. The wife had kind of taken my dad under her wing when my dad's parents passed away. She was kind of a surrogate mother. So we would often, as a family, go down there. My parents would play cards. They'd play spades or cards or something. And I'd be left to my own devices, so I just kind of wander around the house, sing little songs to myself, pass by the candy jar. And I was really good at sneaking those. So, at my great aunt's house, she had a nice little glass bowl of beautifully colored candies of some sort. I didn't know what they were, but I knew I wanted one. So I snuck one, went to the bathroom, opened it and ate it, and it was nasty. It was a liquor-filled chocolate. I didn't know what it was, but I put that in the trash, spat it out, and very calmly and as if I had just, gone to the bathroom, washed my hands, walked out of the bathroom. But then, I guess, my aunt discovered this. She knew what it was, so it's, okay, who's eating the liquor-filled chocolates? and it was like a little witch hunt in the house. Fortunately, I had cousins and second cousins in the house, so it wasn't all, But once they started asking, I realized, well, this isn't just a yucky chocolate. Like, this is something I really shouldn't have. Except, like, there's alcohol in this. Oh my gosh. I was really feeling like, oh, this was bad. I never admitted it. They were asking all the kids, did you eat the liquor-filled chocolate? No, that wasn't me. I got away with it because there was like 600 or 700 kids. They couldn't figure it out. But I had this feeling like, I can't believe I did that. And nobody can know. Nobody can know that I made a mistake. I mean, what's the worst that would really happen? They would have said, you can't have these chocolates. These are not good for you. Don't do that next time. That's what it would have been, right? If they had figured it out. But for me, it was like the end of the world. That's just one example. That's a small, silly example. But when I make a mistake, the first thing I want to do is I want to find somebody to blame for it. And if I can't find somebody to blame for it, I want to disappear off the face of the earth. It took me a long time before I even began to acknowledge my mistakes and apologize for them. I think, honestly, most of that's happened after my marriage. So, why is that so hard? Why is it so hard for them to make mistakes? I think that, there's some things that come naturally to people, but and for some people, apologizing to some, certain people is okay, it's easy. But then when it comes to that person, it's really hard. But why is this so hard? I think it's because it's the one thing that evil or Satan cannot do. Satan cannot acknowledge his mistakes, his shortcomings, the things that he's done wrong. Fortunately, we are children of God, so we have many wonderful characteristics. We have, I really don't agree with this Oxford Languages Dictionary definition. A modest or low view of one's importance. Divine principle teaches us that each one of us has infinite value. Each one of us has a value that's equal to that of the entire cosmos, because there's no other person who can fill that little piece in God's heart that's shaped like us. So, it's not that we aren't important. We have this value from God. We are God's children. But at the same time, we're in a midway position between God and Satan. And so, while we have this original nature, we always have a desire that's pushing us towards good, calling us towards God. There's also parts of us that are very hard to let go of that are not from God. And this freedom from pride and arrogance is one of them. This is I think, a really amazing quote from our true Father, Reverend Moon. What did Jesus, who came to confront the original nature of Satan, give as a sign when he appeared in life? He had to do what Satan could not do. The Christian Gospels point out the actions that Jesus took for the sake of accomplishing his responsibility. His words, his mind, his daily life, his physical life, and even his death were all for the sake of setting conditions Satan was incapable of carrying out. You have to understand that such was the course of Jesus. Because the laws of the heavenly way exist, because God governs everything centered on those laws, Jesus Christ separated Satan according to those heavenly principles. The basic nature of Satan is arrogance and fury. Although Satan dealt with the people of the earth with this kind of personality, Jesus came before the people of the world in meekness and humility. Jesus did not stand in a position of meekness and humility because he was incapable and unworthy. He deserved to be higher and enjoy more glory than anyone else. But Jesus forsook all of this and stood in a position of meekness and humility. Although Satan tried to fight with Jesus, because Jesus knew that Satan was bound with a condition that required him to submit before God, he could remain meek and humble to the end. A meek and humble nature like this is the opposite of Satan's original nature of arrogance and fury. So it can be one of the hardest things in the world to admit a mistake or to acknowledge that someone else was right. You guys I have this feeling, almost like a feeling that comes up, like, I really don't want to do that. I really don't want to say that actually you were right and I was wrong. I'd rather say almost anything than that. This is a very common theme in drama movies, right? Where it's usually like a husband and wife thing. We watched Die Hard recently. I've never seen Die Hard before. You guys seen Die Hard? Bruce Willis? Okay. Christmas is coming. You guys need to watch it. There's this part where he and his wife have just gotten in this argument, and then of course the whole place is like getting shot up and blown up and everything. And then he's talking to this policeman. He's like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it out of this, but you need to tell my wife this. And then he stops. And he finally pulls it out, you need to tell her I'm sorry. I was wrong. So hard, and he wasn't even talking to her, right? He was going through a meeting and to tell her these things. So hard to do. But we can relate to those moments in the movies, right? So hard to do. But it's not a small thing either. Because when we can actually do it, it's the one thing that Satan cannot do. This is, in one of the ways it's like a small step for, it may feel like, what is that? Small step for man, yes, a giant leap for mankind, something like that. It seems like such a small thing. But when we can release ourselves from pride and arrogance, this is when we can most resemble godliness. It might seem like a small thing in the moment to apologize to my husband, but to God, this is something that most of humanity, for all of history, was not able to do. It's a big thing. And also in pastoring, I really feel like also in addition to being humble to, our spouse or the people in our life, we also really need to learn humility to God. There's some really wonderful quotes. I have one from the Bible, one from Reverend Moon, and one from his wife, Virgin Mother. He guides the humble in what is right and teaches them his way. What is inferred here? If we are not humble to God, God can't work. God doesn't have anything to work with if we already think we know it all already, right? But when we are open to God's direction, we, as Lorette said, we surrender to God, God can work with it. If we're open to God's direction, and God can guide our feet. If we feel like, oh, I already learned this before, I already know the Bible, I already know the right principle, then those might be good things, but God can't, it's like no wiggle room there. Here's another quote similar. Anyone who thinks he is high standard and a good example for others has already stopped growing. Maybe there's some place you get to, but if that might be it. We're on a continuous journey. We're on this path. We're not there yet. Those who are in positions of responsibility should first learn to be humble. They should not think that they have done well. On the contrary, they should feel that they need to learn from all those around them. I feel like that is really a lesson that Mike and I have had to continue learning on this path more deeply as time goes by. There's certain things that I feel like, wow, we've somehow managed to get it right, or we've made some good choices, or we've stumbled on the right direction one way or another. But we're still, just as everyone else, we're still on this path. We're still seeking. We need to seek for God's guidance. I love the song, the offering song that Chelsea and Sam and Yoshi sing. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour, I need you. If I think that I've got it all figured out, then I'm stuck. But wherever I'm at, if I can acknowledge to God that I need you, and I seek for your guidance, and I want you in my life, and I want to partner with you. Please help me make the right choice. Please help me to say the right words in this difficult situation. Then I feel like there's so much freedom in that letting go of arrogance and pride. So out of this, I don't know what you were feeling. It's possible that some of you might be feeling, well, I screwed up. I'm feeling some arrogance or pride right now that's hard to let go of. Or I'm thinking of a time when I hurt somebody's feelings, or when I was not able to apologize. There's good news for you. The fall, when Adam and Eve separated from God, and these are the results that we deal with today. The fall was a disconnect of heart caused by selfishness, jealousy, and guilt, shame, anger. You guys, all of those emotions that we don't like to feel, right? But restoration is not just the opposite of those things. Oh, if I can never feel those things, that means I am a good person. If I'm feeling those things, that means I am a bad person. It's not like that, right? Because of jealousy, right? Lucifer took Eve. Because of shame, Eve went to Adam. Because of guilt, there was blame, right? There was a process of emotion God. And restoration is not just the opposite of those things. Restoration means reversing those things, facing those emotions and overcoming them. That's what restoration is. So when you feel shame, when you feel frustration, when you feel upset at yourself because you're wrestling with pride or arrogance or fury. I was just telling Marjorie, sometimes I'm rage knitting. Helps me feel it. If I'm feeling rage, it's not that it's bad, it's that humanity has to face these emotions, work through them, and overcome them to come back to God. So we don't have to, so please, if you're beating yourself up because you feel a little bit stuck with this right now, or you're thinking about a time when I was shamed, I felt shameful, or I felt blamed, or so I wanted to blame my problem on somebody else. We don't have to feel bad because we feel those emotions. Instead, we can recognize our difficulties as an opportunity to overcome something and come closer to God and our original true self. So the main thing is how we deal with our challenges when we face them. With humility, right? Recognizing I am not everything. I can be humble enough to recognize that I don't always have the right answer. I sometimes have to go through a difficulty to overcome that. I'm not perfect all the time. And also gratitude. I can, if I am really present to this, I can even be grateful for my difficulties because it's an opportunity to restore something that maybe my parents couldn't restore, that my grandparents couldn't restore, that Adam and Eve couldn't restore. This is an opportunity. Gratitude, that is another thing that Satan has nothing of. I can't imagine. There's no scenario that I can imagine that Satan or evil is like grateful, right? So being grateful is in difficulties is also something huge to God. That's the end of my notes. I have nothing left up here. But I do really feel that this is a lesson we can learn quickly, and we are constantly led to deeper and deeper levels as we go through life, to learn the true definition of humility, which is not that I am insignificant, or I am not worthy, or I can't have nice things because I need to be humble. But it's a freedom. There's a freedom in being free from pride and arrogance, letting go of these things. And that we actually are led to our true value through true humility. Please join me in prayer. God, good morning. Thank you so much for another Sunday. Truly grateful for this opportunity to come together. There are so many beautiful children of yours in this room today. And just right now feeling so much of your love for each one of us. Heavenly Parent, and how you are watching us. You know each one of us. You know our hearts. You know our challenges. You know where we came from. You know our circumstances, Heavenly Parents. And you are really rooting for us when we face difficulties in our life to choose you, to choose love, to choose humility, to choose gratitude. These are the biggest challenges humanity can face, Heavenly Parents. And even while it feels like it's maybe not worth the effort to us sometimes, or that it won't make a difference, it makes a huge difference to you. And I think sometimes you wish that you could just fix our problems and you could step in and you could protect us from pain or difficulty. you won't take away our free will, and you won't take away the beauty of us choosing you, Heavenly Parents. So I pray that we can keep you in our minds, that we can recognize that we need you. Every hour we need you. And if we keep you close to us like that, then when we're faced with these difficulties, we can call on you. Thank you so much for guiding us to this point in our life. I don't think that any one of us would be here if it wasn't for you and how you have intervened in our life and how you have worked through all the situations of our life to guide us here, Heavenly Parents. So we are infinitely thankful to you for that. And we trust that you will be guiding us as we go forward. We just want to surrender to you. We want to ask you to guide our steps, knowing that we don't have all the answers. I pray that we can